One thing we haven't probably really delved into, even though I know it's out there, I know it's big, I know it's growing, is pickleball. So we thought we'd invite two gentlemen into the studio tonight. And the National Pickleball League was born out of the desire of a couple of mates wanting to spread the great gospel of pickleball around Australia. The aim to elevate the sport of pickleball. The NPL runs Australia's professional national league, tournaments, corporate days, school university programs, social leagues, events and introductory pickleball days. Now, for any of you that know a little bit about tennis, you would know that this is big, certainly in the US, growing in Asia. We have done a paddle podcast in the past. We know that is big in South America and Europe. And two forms of tennis, racket sports, that are certainly right out there now as genuine options for people to play. Ron Chell is the CEO of the National Pickleball League. Ron, it's great to have you in the studio.
Brett, thanks for having us.
And you're just down the road too, not far from us again.
The Jar, the home of pickleball in Australia. It's about a 5-minute drive from here. 4 beautiful courts. We'll have to get you down.
So we're probably going to run out of time to, we could probably spend an hour talking pickleball this hour, but just in Australia, because I've known about how big it is in the US. I see footage and it's phenomenal. I mean, on TV, crowds, so many people taking it up who maybe don't want to play the conventional game anymore or who have gone down this path. But what about pickleball in Australia and a bit of a summary of how it's grown?
Yeah, look, it is still very new. I would say we're comfortably a few years behind the US growth, but I think that's what's really exciting. It's sort of been around for the last 10 years in a very small fashion. But really over the last year is where we've started to see finally some proper growth, and we haven't even scratched the surface. I'd say there's estimated about 50,000 people playing right now in Australia, which is still less than 1%, of the country. In America, they got up to nearly 1 in 5 people participating last year. So that shows you the capacity of the sport to really be a mainstream sport. And we think Australia does follow a lot of those trends. We're starting to see that growth already happen, but we're right at that start, Brett, and that's what's exciting for us.
So who are those people, Ron? Are they people that are playing conventional tennis and adding a bit of pickleball in, or are they just people, no, I really like this pickleball, I've never played tennis in my life? What's sort of the demographic?
Honestly, it's a bit of a split. It probably started, and this was even in America 50 years ago, as purely like a retirement village sport, if we're honest, and that's a stigma it's still trying to shed to pickleball players, which is part of the journey that the NPL needs to take. Now it's really a mix. I would say about 50% of the people coming in do have a racket sport background and usually tennis. And the reason they love it is they're usually the first to say, oh, that's probably not for me. I'm still going to do tennis. But once they play it, it's a lot harder and more fun than what it looks like. And it translates really well, especially on the singles side, but provides a different skill. And you feel like you can be competitive really quickly. And in a world where tennis has become such a competitive sport in the world, it is harder and harder to break through. A lot of people are like, wow, I'm finding it easier within months to actually make an impact in pickleball. So that's what's bringing people in.
So I was also looking up, just like you to clarify this for me. So Pickleball Australia, there was the website, you're the National Pickleball League. Can you just explain sort of the differences?
Absolutely. So Pickleball Australia, the acting governing body, right now in Australia, it's not actually a recognised sport yet. So there is no, official governing body. In saying that, that's what we're working towards as a collective. So we have a partnership with Pickleball Australia, and we want to be the largest, I guess, commercial entity and the largest driver of participation in the sport, working closely with Pickleball Australia to help them with the rules, the governance, and all the things that governing bodies do great. We want to invest in what can actually take the sport from being very niche to mainstream, and that's around venues, around pathways, around tournaments, and marketing and events. So we actually work pretty hand in hand now, and I think that's going to continue over the next few years, and hopefully that government funding starts to come in once the sport is actually officially recognised, which we hope happens over the next year or two.
Okay. So are you looking long-term to remain sort of independent? We've seen, paddle have the association now with Tennis Australia as the governing body who have taken over sort of the running of paddle. Where does it sort of sit with pickleball?
It's an interesting one. I think pickleball is so unique, Brett, that it's not going to follow the same path of other sports. Sure. And because the beauty of pickleball in its essence is that we've never seen a participation sport like it. It could actually attract almost the whole of Australia at the funnel. Because of that, you have to think about it in a very different way about, we need to own the sport in this way and that way. That's not exactly how we want to think about it. It's how do we get more people playing a sport that they clearly love? And then how do we make the professional side stand out so that it can become a profession for a lot of these tennis players moving over and others that are picking up the sport. So A lot of that's to play out, but I don't think it'll actually play out like a lot of other traditional sports because of the uniqueness of pickleball.
Maybe something I should have asked right off the top, but I'm going to assume everyone's probably heard of pickleball. If people are driving around in their car tonight or sitting at home and go, pickleball, what the hell's this pickleball? Just try and paint a picture on radio of how you would sum up what pickleball is.
I should be good at this now, Brett, a year and a half into the journey. But look, it's a smaller version of tennis and a larger version of table tennis and a bit of badminton. It's got a few of the racket sports and paddle sports in one. And you play, I guess the biggest difference is that you play with a plastic air ball.
Yep.
And almost more like a beach tennis paddle on a badminton-sized court with a tennis net that's slightly lower than a tennis net. It looks sort of small and easy to play, but in singles, it feels like you have to cover more of the court quicker. But doubles is this great sport that sort of equalizes, brings people together because it's all about strategy and precision. So really a mini tennis or a big table tennis is the easiest way to describe it, but there's a lot more punch than that.
So the traditionalists, if we can call them that in Australia, who maybe say, gee, pickleball, paddle, maybe a little bit of a threat, to conventional tennis. There's a lot who say, no, we can combine the two together. We're seeing a lot of tennis centres around Australia add in these forms to their traditional tennis courts. How would you react to that?
I would say we, from day one, reached out to Tennis Australia and wanted to have a really amicable relationship and still do.
Yep.
And I think they can coexist. And there's proof is in the pudding. Our chairman of the board is the former CEO of Tennis Australia, Steve Wood.
Yeah.
So if he can see it, he pushed the same message for 9 years about tennis being the greatest sport ever and championed so many great things at Tennis Australia. He sees the same potential for community. What we see is that tennis will always be this prestigious sport. Paddle is also a great sport, and pickleball, they can all coexist. Pickleball appeals to a wider base of people, and it complements those two sports in a way we haven't seen, but it doesn't need to replace it. And that's what we're talking about with Tennis Australia. How do we build these racket centres of excellence that allows people not need to choose, but instead, have all the choices in front of them?
Well, Ron, alongside you tonight is a man who's had a crack at the tour and now transitioned into paddle. Tom Evans, you're 23 years of age. Tom, you've made the change. I think you played a tournament a week ago. Welcome to you, first of all.
Thanks for having me, Brett.
So just for those who mightn't have been across your journey, I mean, you played 51 matches on the ITF tour. You played one match at Challenger level. You would know better than anyone, and we talk about it on our show all the time, how tough this sport is. It's almost, enter at your own risk, trying to have a crack at starting your own business on the road, particularly for Aussies, logistically. You had a crack at it. At what stage did you think, gee, I don't know if this is the right call right now, and what lured you sort of to pickleball, if you can give a little pen pick of your own journey?
Well, I was travelling for like the good part of 2 years, and it gets pretty tiring. It gets pretty tough having to lose every week. Came back to Australia, played a couple of futures. Injured my toe at an event. Had accommodation in Gold Coast, so we thought, why not stay there? And we'd been seeing pickleball pop up on YouTube. I was like, well, what is this? Like, I want to play for a bit of fun. And then I was like, oh, well, you don't have to move as much as tennis, so like, why not just play that? And then, we went down, had a hit, absolutely loved it. At the time, I was getting kind of fed up with tennis, like mentally, it was getting pretty draining, and absolutely loved it. A few guys said, come down tomorrow, there's some pros here. I'm like, okay, we'll hit with the pros. And we did really well against them, beat a couple of them on our second day ever. So, and then they said, you got to play. There's good opportunity in pickleball. So then, we took it up and haven't looked back since.
Okay. And number one pickleball player in the country?
By some standard, I believe. Is that right, Ron?
Yeah, there's, Australian ranking points. But yeah, he's a fantastic player, especially 5 months in.
So the tennis ability transitioning to pickle, I mean, you'd have a lot of natural qualities onto a pickleball court, but have there been, what's been a challenging part of it, or something where you've had to maybe just adapt to pickleball and make it a success?
Yeah, well, at the start, it was the scoring system, because you can only score points on your serve.
Yep.
But singles is obviously a lot easier to straight away transition because it's very much like tennis. And if you like coming to the net in tennis, it's a lot easier because like you return then come in straight away. But the hardest part has been doubles, like learning there's obviously that kitchen line where you can't go, the non-volley zone where you can't volley inside. Learning how to be more tactical in a smaller court. Obviously, you can't just blast a winner past people. It's a very small court, 2 people on each side. So it's just learning how to win in doubles is obviously the toughest part for being a tennis player. Obviously, I love doubles in tennis, but yeah, it's more the tactical side in doubles, just learning that.
So I suppose a question for both is, having sampled the lower end of the tennis tour and how tough that is, certainly to get ahead and make it viable financially, what could pickleball potentially turn into for yourself maybe down the track?
I mean, there's at the rate it's growing, it can be just as good as a career as tennis if you make it in tennis. So, I mean, Ron's probably better to answer this than me, but yeah, I think at the rate it's going, I mean, I'm going to stick at it because number one, I really enjoy it, but number two, I can see the growth and what NPL is doing and how well they're doing, and I just have full belief in them. So, I mean, I think it's going to be huge.
Look, I think, Brett, like put simply, we're at the start of the industry and already tennis players who were in Tom's position, even some better, some worse, can already transition over and potentially earn more in prize money already. And that's with a 4 or 5 year trajectory ahead that we know we're going to follow very similarly to the US. You only have to look at the number one player in the US, Ben Johns. They released an article, I think in 2019, he made $50,000 from pickleball. And 2024 is now 2.5 million. The difference is you don't have to, Tom has talked me through the tennis career and just the blood, sweat and tears. It doesn't mean you don't have to work hard in pickleball, don't get me wrong. It's just that immediately some of the options that you might have to take 3 or 4 years to find can already be there because you've already done a lot of, I guess, the homework in getting great at a racket sport and a paddle sport. And now you can transition over to something that's a bit newer that not every tennis player is going to jump immediately. And therefore, you're not competing necessarily against that huge pool for a sport that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years with these amazing Grand Slams. But because of the participation in it, there's all these companies fascinated by it. So the money's going to come in over a shorter period of time and you can transition easily. So a lot of tennis players who finally put the fact that it's called pickleball, and that I really want to make it on the tennis tour. If you can put those things behind you, you've got an opportunity from day one in pickleball, which is amazing. And that's what the NPL wants to provide with our professional league and our tournaments and what we've already done this year.
So we're talking a bit of pickleball. Ron Chell is the CEO of the National Pickleball League, and Tom Evans, former Australian pro, is, of course, the number one pickleball player in Australia. Tom, I think out in the green room is your partner, who's not too bad at all at pickleball as well.
That's Helena,
Tell us a bit more.
Oh, well, I mean, we play mixed together. We do really well. People often ask us, like, do we fight or do we argue? And to answer it simply no. If sometimes I try to take too much of the court, but no. Overall, it's really, really fun. I mean, we absolutely enjoy mixed in tennis, and we wish there was more mixed events in tennis. But that's another really big factor that we like as well. We love playing together.
I think you've both been named as ambassadors
that's
for the
correct.
sport for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So what does that sort of entail?
That just means just growing the sport. Bringing more tennis players in that want to play. Being kind of the face of the NPL/pickleball, and just overall just trying to grow the sport and just get it out there as much as possible.
So you just played recently up in Queensland.
Yeah.
What is sort of the year looking like for you in terms of practicing week to week, the amount of tournaments you're playing? What does it sort of look like?
Yeah, we've got a rough schedule. A lot of that's in Asia. Like next month, we're leaving to America. To play in the pro leagues over there, which is the toughest competition for pickleball. So that'll be a really great test to see where we're at. But it's very busy, and much more busy than what I thought, but nowhere near as kind of tough and as a slog as the tennis is. You can kind of come home and, it's not like a full week like tennis where it takes, to win a tournament takes a full, 5, if you're a major, 5 days, 7 days if you're in qualies. It's a 3-day tournament and then you're done. So that's the part I like about it too.
Can I ask you just a holistic question? Now you have experience being a pro player, because I talk to juniors, I talk to aspiring players, the whole sort of spectrum. Everyone's going on their different journey. We have a college segment regular on our show. That seems to be a bit of a no-brainer for the Aussies, but I understand also it doesn't fit for everyone. But is there anything you would have maybe done different? I mean, the prize money you earned is sort of public knowledge.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me putting it out there. It's on the ATP website, $13,604, doubles and singles combined.
Yeah.
Is pickleball proving a little more lucrative even at this early stage?
Well, I actually thought it was 10,000, so that's actually better. But yeah,
We're going to find that 3. Where is it?
yeah, well, I don't know where it is.
Taking it, yeah.
But yeah, I've actually made more money from pickleball in only a few tournaments. Obviously I started November last year, so 2 months in, I haven't played a tournament. So is like 3-4 months I've made more money in pickleball than I had in my whole life in tennis. So it's just insane.
What would you say to the powers to be? I mean, there's a lot being discussed in the world of tennis right now. The Saudi investment money, is that money going to filter all the way down to players, sort of around that 400-500 beyond, who can all hit a pretty good ball, who are striving to chasing their dream and striving for that consistency week in, week out, but no doubt there needs to be a bigger pool of players who are making a living out of the sport.
100%. I mean, tennis is just, it's unless you've got a sponsor, like a money sponsor, or obviously, I know a lot of guys that got their parents that still fund them. It's just crazy. The amount that you spend. Like we've spent in 2 years, like off our own business, like probably close to $200,000.
Yep.
Just for traveling for the two of us to go play these tournaments. So it's just insane. And then, as you said, $13,000 US is what you get back. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I find it fascinating, just everyone's journey. Everyone plays for different reasons, and it becomes sort of a lifestyle for a lot who get on the road and just love being out there, playing a sport that they love regardless of the income. Ron, we've got a few minutes here. I suppose looking to the crystal ball of what the next sort of period looks like for pickleball in this country and some of the key boxes that you're sort of trying to tick.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think the biggest thing still hamstringing the sport from taking that next jump is just places to play that are dedicated. A lot of the pickleball clubs, they call themselves clubs, are sharing courts with badminton, tennis, netball. That's just not a way that you can actually grow a sport that people look at as a credible sport, which is why we went and opened a dedicated facility, with our own money. But I think the big next tick is how can you get more of these dedicated centres around Australia? How can you get councils and other organisations to invest in the space? And then the next thing is to take our professional league out there and make it as interesting and as fun a product as it can be. We ran MPL Season 1. We've actually got the finals coming up next weekend down here in South Melbourne with the best 8 teams from Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales. But then we start Season 2 already in August. And for us, that's an opportunity as the sport grows its awareness to now really showcase it and be like, okay, we've got people like Tom and Helena, and we've got other great tennis players that have come in the last 4 months. How do we get that next wave in? And it is people like Tom and Helena who took that chance early on in their career and said, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. But there's another 50 to 100 that can do that over the next few months. And then from there, it's thousands. And once you get those thousands of people in, the sport goes to the next level. And I think marketing the sport in the right way, which is what we're trying to do, make it young, fun, take that stigma of the silly name of pickleball away, is that next point. And I think in the Australian Open this year, there was already some activations and events which elevated pickleball. We had Nick Kyrgios playing on a pickleball court here in QT.
Wouldn't surprise me if he goes down that track.
Honestly, it wouldn't. He's going through obviously an amazing thing. He's been very open about his journey as well recently. But I mean, we've seen Sock in the US and Sam Querrey and others take the sport up, Eugenie Bouchard. It's coming. What it needs is just that more, the faces of the sport to stand up and say, hey, it is cool. It is fun. It's still a genuine sport. And that's really what that ambassador athlete sort of thing is for Tom and Helena, is how do they usher that new wave in and make people look at pickleball and go, I want to do that. I'm missing out.
Great stuff, team. Hey, thanks for coming in, just sharing a little bit of your knowledge around pickleball and the experiences. The website address?
www.nplpickleball.com.au.
Okay, look it up.
Look it up.
Check it out. Discover what's going on. Tom, all the best.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to getting the update in about 6 to 12 months' time, just how it's all tracking on court. And I'll have to get down there and certainly take a look. And, we'll do some more on the first serve.
Absolutely.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
for having us.
Ron and Tom, thank you.